It's a beautiful world.
Charlie Birger had been the toast of the town in the Roaring '20s. Even though he was a known bootlegger with a checkered past, he was so smooth his neighbors could overlook his sins. Bill Salas was 13 years old, and his family lived next door to Birger's.
He got along with all of his neighbors. He'd bend over backwards to get along with his neighbors. And
Did you all know what was happening over in Williamson County?
oh, we had some idea of some of the things that were going on.
Across the county line, Birger was a feared gangster, but in Harrisburg, some saw him as Robin Hood. He gave handouts to the needy and protected the town.
And he just reached in his pocket.
Rollie Moore was a wide-eyed sixth grader when Birger showed up to throw out a pocket full of coins on the playground at Horace Mann School.
But he just broadcasted just like he would be throwing seed over a lawn.
What'd you think of him?
Well, we didn't know who he was at that time.
He was a showman.
Author Gary DeNeal spent years researching Birger, and he says the gangster really enjoyed the spotlight.
He looked like a movie star. In fact, one writer said he was a dead ringer for Tom Mix.
Now, here's something else about Birger. He was a real natty dresser, had silk shirts, all the best of clothes, but he wasn't complete in just these clothes. He carried around his Thompson machine gun. Sometimes you could even see him walking down the street with it.
He had an armored car. I forget what make it was, but he kept it in the drive and in the garage here.
Were there weapons around?
Oh, yes.
He was the friendliest guy you ever saw.
91-year-old Virgil Motsinger ran a general store across the county line and remembers running into Birger in the barber shop.
He'd come in, there'd be about three of them. One of them sat there in the barber shop with a gun across his knee, while the other got a haircut.
That was 1926, and the gang war was about to explode. Just a few miles down the road, Birger built a fortified headquarters called Shady Rest, and it would soon become a focal point of the legend of Charlie Birger. It wasn't Kubla Khan or Xanadu, but to Charlie Birger it was a palace, a place he called Shady Rest.
Now, the cabin set back just a little bit farther off the road than this.
He built the rustic roadhouse halfway between Marion and Harrisburg. It was the hideout for his heavily armed gang, and it was a hangout for gamblers and bootleggers. Virgil Motsinger helped with some repair work.
I was right out here, outside of the beating joint. And I heard the shot fall, and I looked out, and I seen a guy go out through the woods, and heard 8 or 10 shots.
There were lots of shootings around Shady Rest. It was the scene of the first aerial bombing in the U.S. A rival gang dropped a dynamite bomb from a biplane. It was a dud. In the back, Birger staged bulldog and cockfights. At the highway, he built a barbecue stand as a front. One day, a group of 7th graders out for a bike ride stopped in.
We drove down there, rode our bicycles down there, and when we got down there, we had in the morning hit the door till somebody grabbed us and said, "You boys get your butts back up on the highway where you belong."
Moore's lucky he wasn't there a few months later. Shady Rest was bombed again, and this time it was shattered. This is all that's left of Shady Rest, just this slab of concrete. Now, that's what's left of Route 13 over there, but that highway is closed now. And the word is that this whole area here is going to be strip mined. It'll soon be gone, and with it, some people say, will go a piece of...
Because if you got mixed up with him and you knowed anything, that's when he get you.
But Birger soon got the wrong people, and that's what ended up getting him. 1929 record, The Hanging of Charles Birger, is part of the legend.
This bandit's name was Birger. He lived at Shady Rest.
Its lyrics tell how after Birger's hideout at Shady Rest was destroyed, the Southern Illinois gang wars exploded. Birger's rivals hit his home in Harrisburg.
And the Sheltons came through and poured gasoline on the house to try to burn it, and there was some shots fired.
It didn't work. Birger's house still stands today, but his gang went on a rampage. State Highway Patrolman Laurie Price and his wife were murdered. The mayor of West City was gunned down, and Birger was arrested. This is where Birger spent the last year of his life. He was locked up here at the old Franklin County Jail. And for once, he was pretty much just like any other prisoner. What he was doing, he was waiting here for his trial over in the courthouse. And as it turned out, he was also waiting for a hanging. The trial attracted national attention. Birger was filmed going to the courtroom, tipping his hat each day. Machine gun armed guards surrounded the jail. His wife and children were by his side. He had the finest lawyers, but the jury found him guilty, and he was sentenced to hang.
He asked for a rehearing, but this he was denied.
It was the last hanging in Illinois, and that's another part of the legend that attracts today's youngsters.
The boys especially want to run straight to that corner and see it. But now the girls aren't that interested.
And what do the boys think of him?
Well, they think he's a hero.
During his last years, the gangster himself cultivated the legend. He even had postcards made up and sold them.
He obviously was a bit of a megalomaniac, you know, and the fact that, you know, he saw himself as being so self-important.
He was a showman, you know. Maybe he knew 50 years, 60 years down the line, we'd be talking about him.
Even on the gallows, he said something that's intrigued people for years. What were Charlie Birger's last words?
I think it was a beautiful world.
He said it's a beautiful world.
It is a beautiful world.
It's a beautiful world.
On the 19th day of April in
Like thousands of other people, Virgil Motsinger went to the public hanging in Benton.
Oh, he wasn't right about it, it seemed like. Walked up there just straight, as you would any time.
Birger smiled at the sheriff who had arrested him.
He looked happy, actually.
He shook hands with the hangman. The crowd became silent. It was 9:48 a.m., April 19th, 1928.
It's a beautiful world.
And the legend lives on. I'm Terry Caldwell, News 3.